Kevin Nunes, a promising footballer who played for Stafford Rangers, was tragically murdered in September of 2002 at the age of 20. Known for his football talent and having been associated with Tottenham Hotspur's youth system, Nunes was found shot multiple times on a rural lane in Pattingham, Staffordshire. His murder was deemed a gang-related execution, influenced by his alleged involvement in the local drug trade. Welcome back to Crime Chronicles. Stay tuned as we look at the murder investigation and trial of 5 men who police say killed Kevin Nunes. This case has more than a few similarities with the Essex boys' murders, and is a story mired in police incompetence and possible cover-ups. Kevin Nunes was 20 when he was killed in an apparent gangland shooting in Pattingham, Staffordshire. Although Nunes had been recognised as a talented footballer, he had also been involved in a number of drug deals. He was known to local criminals and was part of the local criminal underworld, albeit at a low level. Before being shot execution style on a quiet country lane in Staffordshire, he had been brutally pistol whipped. This was a murder that was designed to send a message. Kevin arrived in the UK from Jamaica as a schoolboy, and very quickly he began to show promise as a talented footballer. He impressed scouts at Tottenham Hotspur and was on Leyton Orient's books. When he moved to the West Midlands, he began playing for Stafford Rangers, semi-professionally. At about the same time, 18-year-old Leanne Williams from Wolverhampton caught his eye. By 2002, Leanne was pregnant with his son, but any hopes of Kevin realising his dream as a professional footballer had begun to fade. He had started hanging around with a bad crowd, a gang of drug dealers linked to a notorious criminal gang in Heathtown, Wolverhampton. He learned there was quite a bit of money to be made buying cheap cocaine in the West Midlands and selling it on in Aberdeen. In what was known as the Aberdeen Run, small-time dealers would board a train in Wolverhampton and head up to the Scottish city, making 3 or 4 times as much as they could back at home. Kevin, then 20, began making several trips, but his money-making scheme did not last long after he clashed with gang members back in the Midlands. Kevin would never get to meet his child once his bullet-ridden body was found on a grass verge near a farm in the Staffordshire village of Pattingham in September of 2002. Leanne, who had been frantically looking for her boyfriend after he failed to return home, was visited by Staffordshire police and quizzed about his last known movements. She said, "The last thing they asked me was what he was wearing. I said, red cardigan, jeans, white trainers. And they said, sorry to tell you, it is Kevin we found." The police investigation was extensive, but it was met with silence from the local community, who had an inherent distrust of the authorities. The initial investigation concluded that the murder was the result of a drug deal that had gone wrong. The original investigation, though, had faced significant setbacks. In fact, it had been so shambolic that the 5 men who were found guilty in 2008 of the murder, Antonio Christie, Levi Walker, Adam Joof, Michael Osborne, and Owen Crooks, would subsequently be released due to police errors. The 5 men who were put at the scene of Mr. Nunes' murder by a single witness were jailed for life in 2008, but they were freed in 2012, when information about how police handled their informant came to light. The men were convicted based primarily on the testimony of an eyewitness, Simeon Taylor, who provided critical evidence for the prosecution. However, in 2012, these convictions were overturned when the UK's Court of Appeal raised concerns about police conduct and disclosure failures during the original investigation. This decision was spurred by accusations of serious police misconduct, including the mishandling of evidence, which led to questions about the reliability of the witnesses' testimony and procedural integrity. The Independent Police Complaints Commission, or IPCC, launched an inquiry that examined possible misconduct and suppression of evidence by several high-ranking officers from Staffordshire Police. But ultimately, no criminal charges were brought against these officers. In the aftermath, Merseyside police reviewed the case in hopes of bringing justice to Nunes' family, yet no new convictions have resulted from these efforts. This case, marked by its flawed investigative process, highlights serious issues within police conduct and the judicial handling of evidence. Despite years of legal proceedings, Kevin Nunes' family has yet to see conclusive justice for his murder, making this case a prominent example of the challenges in addressing complex, gang-related homicides in the UK. A new investigation would be welcome news for Kevin Nunes' partner Leanne Williams and their 16-year-old son and the rest of the family. Even back in 2002, they thought there would be little chance of a successful prosecution because few people were willing to come forward with information. Then, as now, the case is still believed to have involved drugs gangs. The family celebrated when 5 men were jailed in 2008, but were distraught when the convictions were quashed because of mistakes made during the original investigation. It has taken a lot to rebuild the relationship between the family and Staffordshire police, but they are pleased there's new hope that Kevin's killers can be found and brought to justice. Despite police taking more than 1,000 statements about Mr. Nunes' murder, only one witness, Simeon Taylor, was willing to give evidence. Taylor, who was in jail when he came forward, abused the police protection he was given, committing crimes and breaching a behaviour code of conduct 76 times without ever being charged for fear it would harm his role as key witness. The force was also found to have taken Taylor on nights out drinking and even sent him on a taxpayer-funded trip to South Africa, believed to have cost up to £10,000. In 2019, a team of detectives with no links to the original investigation had carried out a robust and thorough re-investigation of the case. Officers identified a suspect and evidence was submitted to the Crown Prosecution Service for consideration. The CPS concluded it was not possible to pursue a prosecution against the suspect due to failings in the original investigation. It now seems that the failures by the Staffordshire Police Sensitive Policing Unit, whose job it was to keep the key witness, himself a convicted criminal, out of trouble, are why his killers are still at large. Although his evidence led to the convictions of 5 men for murder, that witness, Simeon Taylor, was unreliable and continued to offend even during the time he was under police protection. A report outlining his behaviour wasn't shared with the defence lawyers, and after it emerged, the 5 men's convictions were quashed. Although the case remains open, it seems that there may be no possibility to bring the key suspect to court. Whether this was due to police incompetence or calculated corruption seems to be a question that will probably never be answered. Sure, Kevin Nunes was a small-time criminal, but how his murder was handled was a far greater crime. Hopefully, his family will one day see justice done in his name. Thank you for joining us today on Crime Chronicles. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel with your friends.